Welcome and hello. This is a video exercise in HEC HMS. And in this exercise, we're going to be dealing with precipitation method, specifically the gauge weights method. All right, what I have on the screen here is the HMS Tutorials and Guides website. So if you scroll down to Meteorologic Models for Historical Precipitation, go ahead and click that. And now we have a few different tutorials that are built and ready for us to use. Those are the gauge weight, gridded precipitation, and then inverse distance. This first link here is an overview, sort of discussing historical precipitation methods in general, but we're going to be dealing with the gauge weight precipitation method in this exercise. So let's actually go ahead and click on this overview link real quick. What it does is it provides an overview, shows the meteorologic model, describes the difference between hypothetical and historical methods. Right here is the gauge weight link to the exercise we'll be doing. And then this is for a gridded precipitation exercise. And these same links are shown up here on the left side. So I'm going to go ahead and click on gauge weight precipitation method. And I will leave a link to this page right here in the description to this video. This particular tutorial does not start from scratch. It starts with some files here. So the first thing to do is go ahead and click on these files and then download them. Go ahead and click the download link. That will download to your desktop or whatever your default download location is. And then just give that a moment. Okay, so it's almost done downloading. All right, so that's completed. I'm just going to go ahead and close that and then scroll down a little bit. Here is the beginning of the instructions. So let's go ahead and prepare the files first. So first what we need to do is here are the files that I downloaded. I'm going to go ahead and put these into a project directory or I can just open them up from HMS. So let's open this up. Okay, so I have gauges plus weights, PU and NX. So that this is the project files. It's only go up one level and then just copy that PU and X directory. So the project directory is copied to my desired location. Okay, I can delete the zip file now. Now let's go ahead and open up HMS and then navigate to the .hms file inside the punks directory that we just downloaded and located. So open, and then I'm going to browse and then go to that location. And then here's the punks directory and then punx.hms. Go ahead and open up that file. And then here we go. We're ready to go. Over here in the Watershed Explorer, I've got 4 directories. There's basin model, control specification, time series data, and terrain data. So that's great. We already have all that ready to go. So for this exercise, we can focus on just the precipitation method, specifically the gauge weight method in the meteorological model. I'm going to open up the basin map by expanding and clicking on May 96. And then it opens up here in the basin map window. So I can go ahead and zoom in. It's a single subbasin with a single outlet here. As you can tell, here's the subbasin and here's the outlet or the sink. Also, we have a control specification window here, which defines the start and end date time of the simulation, which has a 15-minute time interval. And then the time series data we have right here, there's 3 precipitation gauges and then 1 discharge gauge. So I think I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. I'm going to go back to the instructions real quick. What it says is to open up the HMS file and then just confirm that those 4 directories are there. Step 2 is to expand the basin model and just investigate the data that we have. Okay. There are 3 time series data sets. These are precipitation gauges or rain gauges here. As you can see on the map, their approximate location with regard to the subbasin. So this PUNX rain gauge is in the bottom left corner of the subbasin, and then the other 2 rain gauges are sort of northeast of the subbasin and slightly outside of the boundary. So if we go ahead and bring up HMS, you can see the shape of the subbasin, and the PUNX rain gauge would be right about here. And then the other 2 gauges would probably be kind of off to the side. Step 3 says to expand the gauges in the Watershed Explorer to see that there is a time windows associated with each of them. And then I'm going to pull this off to the sides. That way I can read and navigate HMS at the same time. Okay, so what we want to do is expand these time series data sets for precipitation. And if I click on the time window and then the graph, this is for the DUJP precipitation gauge. What we have is data here. It ranges for the 6 days of the simulation from April 28th through May 3rd. And then we can see that there's a precipitation late in the morning of the 29th, midday of the 30th, and then towards the end of the day of May 1st. If we want those actual values, we can click on the table and then get them right there. The same is true with the other two precipitation gauges. Here's the MFFP gauge. If I click on the graph, I can see a different pattern. This is a hyetograph for inches of rainfall on a, I believe, 1 hour time step. Let me check. Yeah, so 1 hour. And actually, the table data would show 1 hour increments as well. But the actual values are a little bit different, even though the precipitation for the storm fell at approximately the same time. Same is true with PU and XP. Let me go ahead and expand that. And here we have, again, a different time series data set for the precipitation in this general location. Okay, scrolling down on the instructions, I'm down on step 4 now where it tells me to create the meteorological model. So now we got to actually do something here. We'll go ahead and go up to Components, Meteorologic Model Manager, and then click New. Go ahead and give it the name of May 1996 Gauge Weights. And then you can type in a description as well if you want, but it's not necessary. Go ahead and click Create. Now in the Watershed Explorer, we have a Meteorologic Models directory here. And then here's the model we just created. What we have down in the Components editor now are the main components for that selected meteorologic model, which shows all of the default values basically. Step 7 of the instructions tell us to change the precipitation method to gauge weights. So let's go ahead and do that. And then I like to save just habitually. Step 8 tells us to switch to the basins tab and associate that meteorologic model with the subbasin. So what that means is this tab right here, we just want to change this no to a yes so that this basin 1996 is now has its subbasins, its one and only subbasin is associated with this meteorologic model. The next step is to select the Mahoning Creek subbasin, which should now appear. If we click the plus symbol, that will expand the subbasin. And now we see our precipitation method right here, gauge weights. So click on that. And now we have two tabs, selections and weights. We first need to select the precipitation gauges that are going to be used in this precipitation model. And we already have these three already because they've already been loaded up for us in the time series dataset. So let's just go ahead and change the value from no to yes for all three of these gauges. Okay. Now, if we click over on the weights tab, we have a row in this table for each gauge that we said yes to over on the selections tab. The first column here is the gauge name, but then the second column, the first column we need to fill out is the gauge weight. So this represents the weight or the influence that that gauge would have over the subbasin. The tutorial and guides shows a map at this juncture to represent the weight that each of these gauges have based on their position and based on the actual outline location of the subbasin. So they call this method Thiessen polygons, where a line is drawn like a perpendicular bisector between the two adjacent gauges. So for instance, this line here, I believe, is perpendicular and bisects the line that would be drawn between MFFP and DUJP. And then like this line here would be a bisector for these two and so on. So once these bisector lines are drawn, then we can also see like what percentage of the subbasin falls within each region. And then this method is basically attributes the percentage of the area to that particular precipitation gauge. So as you see, we have 57%, 31%, and 12%. If we move the location of these grain gauges, then the percentages would probably be different. So let's go ahead and type those numbers in here. We have 12% for DUJP. We have 31%, 57%, and that adds up to 100%. The time weight controls how much each gauge contributes to the time pattern used for the storm event. In general, it's best to choose one gauge located closest to the center of the watershed and give it the weight of 1, and also to give the weights of the others 0. So what the instructions tell us to do here is use the PUNX gauge for the time weight. So I'll set that to 1, and then the other gauges I'll set to 0. Next, it's time to create a simulation run. This is step 14 now in the tutorial. Go to Compute, and then Create Compute Simulation Run. what we want to do is name our simulation run May 1996. So that's what it's telling us to do right here. Create a name for it and then click next. And then now it's telling us to select the basin model. This is our one and only basin model. So we'll select next, select the Meteorologic model, next, and select the control specification. So we're going to go ahead and click finish. Of course, a lot of these things were set up for us based on the data we downloaded and imported. So we're not exactly starting from scratch here, but the purpose of this exercise is to focus on the meteorologic model gauge weights. All right, so we have our May 1996 simulation run that's been created. Let's go ahead and run that simulation. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the run button, and that looks successful. And let's go ahead and check out some of the results. So I'm going to right click here on the outlet and then select view results for the simulation and then click on a graph. And this looks like our hydrograph for flow over the course of the 6-day simulation. I'm particularly interested in the peak flow. So it looks like it occurs in the afternoon, evening, the second part of April 30th. So I'm going to open up the time series data and then just confirm that that's the peak. This right here is the observed flow column, so I'm less interested in that. That's not going to change as they change model parameters. This column here is the inflow from Mahoning Creek and CFS. So let me just scroll down here to afternoon of April 30th, and I'm looking for a maximum value of 2921.6. I can also find this value in the summary table because the peak value is a particular value of interest. 2921.6 should appear if I right click and then summary table. 2921.6 right here is the peak discharge. Okay, that occurred at 5:30 p.m. on April 30th of 1996. Now, keep in mind our control specifications was a 15-minute time interval. So what I want to do now here, the tutorial and guide stops right there, and that's all it says. But I wanted to just do a little bit more investigation while we got the model up. The first thing I want to do is a sensitivity analysis on the time interval. So I'm curious, obviously, we can change this to something more specific, like 5 minutes or even 1 minute. And I'm curious to see how the peak flow and the time of peak flow changes, because I'm curious if 15 minutes is a small enough time window to really get the most accurate information. So let's go ahead and change that to 5 minutes and then rerun the model. I'm going to go ahead and just select 5 minutes, click save, and then click run. So it ran again. And yeah, that looks the same. And I don't need to look at the time series data. I'm just going to go straight to the summary table because I'm just interested in the peak and the time to peak. So now we have a peak value of 2922.3 and then a time to peak of 535. So it increased less than 1 CFS on the peak discharge, and then the time to peak was just 5 minutes later. So that was a very small increase. Just to be complete, let's do the 1 minute time interval on our control specification because I don't think it should take too long to run. And then save. And then let me go ahead and run that. Okay. Noticeably a little bit longer, but still just a few seconds. So no big deal there. Let's go ahead and check out those results. The summary table. Now we have a peak discharge of 2922.4 CFS, and that occurred at 5:37 p.m. So if I summarize that data, we had our first trial at 15 minutes, our second trial at a 5-minute time interval, and a third trial at a 1-minute time interval. The peak flow barely increased, and then the time of peak also just increased just a little bit. So what that tells me is that the first trial we did with a 15-minute time interval in our control specification was small enough because increasing by less than 1 CFS at these magnitude of values is negligible. And then also the time of peak flow shifting back 5 or 7 minutes is also not too important. Next, I want to change a few more inputs and then see how that affects the output flow. First, I want to change the control specification back to 15 minutes. So that's how we originally had it. And then I want to change the time weight to be 1 for MFFP. What that means is I'll go to Gauge Weights here, and in the Weights tab, this value to be 1 here, and then change this to 0, and then save, and then go ahead and run. Okay, so that ran. and then right click. Let's go ahead and check out the summary table. Now our peak flow is 2622.5 CFS, and the peak time of peak flow is an hour later at 6:30 p.m. So this is a significantly uh, lower, maybe like 10%, 90% the original from what it was at 2922. So it's about 300 CFS less than when the PUNX time series data set was serving as our time weight gauge. So that's interesting. So I'm going to go ahead and change that back, put a 0 there, set that to 1. Next, I want to change these depth weights. So instead of using the Thiessen polygon method, I'm just going to assume that each gauge has an equal weight. So I'll just say 0.33, 0.33, and 0.34. So those add up to 1, and then click Save. Now I'm going to run the simulation again. Now I want to take a look at the graph first. And then, yeah, the graph looks similar. It does match that observed flow still fairly closely. And then if I wanted to take a look at the peak flow and the time of peak flow, it is 2862.8. So that's definitely less than our original run of what was 2921. And then 530 is again the time of max flow. The last thing I want to do in this exercise, just clicking around here, is to add a new gauge, a fourth gauge. I'm going to go up to precipitation gauges. So this is a gauge that's specific just to this meteorologic model. It's not going to have a record down here in the time series data set, precipitation gauges. So I'm just going to call this new gauge 1, and then I'll give it a depth of 5 inches just so we can see the impact that it has, and then save. Now what we also need to do is come down here to gauge weights, and we now have a new record, our new row in this table that says new gauge 1. So I'm going to go ahead and change this to yes, and then click save. And then over in the weights, I'm going to change the weights so that they're all equal weighted at 0.25. Okay, so most likely we'll have a peak flow greater than 2,900 if we go ahead and run this model. So let's go ahead and do that. Oops, hold on, I got an error message, I think. No depth specified for, okay, so I need to set the depth of this gauge here, and I'm pretty sure I did that, but let's go ahead and try that again. So 5 inches, run. Okay, so it ran now. Now let's go ahead and take a look at that peak flow. Let's take a look at the graph. Yeah, obviously much more flow than before, but looks like a similar pattern. And then the peak flow would be from the summary table. It's showing up as 4231 CFS, so about 50% what we had the first time, which was 2900. Now we're up to 4200 CFS, and looks like the peak flow still happens at 5:30 p.m. So that was an exercise in downloading an existing model, but then adding our own meteorologic model, and then assigning the precipitation method to be this gauge weights, and then going into subbasin gauge weight component editor, assigning those gauges, the weight depths, and the time weight as an exercise to better understand one method of using precipitation in our meteorologic model in HEC HMS.